Narrative writing, developing effective creative writing skills. Learning objectives. The focus of this lesson is to develop students' creative writing skills in order to construct effective narratives about real or imagined experiences using effective language techniques and well-chosen details. The lesson will focus on 4 key skills. By the end of the lesson, students should be able to 1. Write an engaging opening to a story that hooks the reader's interest. 2. Use direct and indirect characterization to write a detailed passage describing a character. 3. Use sensory detail to create mood and atmosphere when describing a setting. 4. Carefully select specific verbs to create movement during a scene that includes action. To begin, practicing different creative writing skills is a valuable experience for anyone looking to write effective narratives. With the right tools and techniques, you can craft compelling stories that capture the reader's attention, explore important themes, and leave a lasting impression. Showing creativity in your writing will allow you to engage readers with unique storylines, vivid descriptions, excitement and drama, and memorable characters that come to life. No matter the type or style of narrative you're writing, creative writing skills can help you communicate your ideas in a more engaging and memorable way. The following lesson will guide you in practicing 4 key skills for writing an effective narrative. Creative writing skill. Writing an engaging exposition. The first few sentences, paragraphs, or pages of a story are the reader's entry point into a new world. Often, a reader will decide whether or not to continue reading based purely off a story's exposition. The exposition is an opportunity to introduce your writing style, set the scene, and establish your central characters and conflict. It's extremely important that we practice the skill of grabbing a reader's attention straight away through an interesting and engaging introduction. Try to avoid boring cliché openings and instead consider the following. 1. A thought-provoking question or comment about your central theme. 2. A powerful piece of dialogue or conversation to set the scene. 3. A surprising, strange, or unexpected statement or detail to intrigue the reader. 4. Jumping right into the action to create tension or suspense. 5. A foreshadowing clue about the character's potential fate to make the reader wonder. The Activity Library Scavenger Hunt. One way of learning how to create interesting story openings is to observe the methods used by other writers. If you have the opportunity, book a library session and conduct a scavenger hunt for some engaging opening lines and/or passages. You might work individually or with a partner. Aim to find 5 successful expositions that you found particularly effective. For each passage you find, record the following details in your notebook. 1. Title and author. 2. Opening passage. 3. Analysis notes. Specific stylistic features or choices made by the writer. Why they were effective. Ideas you could mirror or adapt in your own writing. Choose one of the following story prompts and practice drafting an engaging exposition. You might draw inspiration from the suggestions on the skills slide or from the examples you saved during your library scavenger hunt. If you have time, use the same prompt and complete another practice experimenting with a completely different style of opening. A shoplifter who was spotted. In walks the new company director. A 3 a.m. phone call. An elderly woman peering through her window. A strange neighbor who does the same thing every day. An ambulance races through the streets. A woman who has been hiding something from her partner. A student waiting to enter the principal's office. Using direct and indirect characterization. The skill. When describing the characters in your story, try to use a combination of direct and indirect characterization, focusing slightly more on indirect characterization to make your story interesting and engaging. A simple rule to remember is show, don't tell. Direct characterization tells the reader about a character's personality explicitly and directly. It is usually quite general and concise. Example: she was easily annoyed, he was a kind man. Indirect characterization shows a reader what a character is like or communicates their traits without explicitly telling them. They might do this in various ways, such as describing their appearance, facial features, body type, clothing, etc., speech or dialogue, actions or behaviors, thoughts, and how they interact with or respond to, or are treated by other characters. Using lots of descriptive detail through indirect characterization can keep your readers engaged in your story, making characters true to life and interesting through creating plenty of imagery. The sample. The street artist sauntered down the sidewalk, his skinny jeans hugging his legs and his thrifted flannel shirt hanging loosely over his lanky frame. His unruly curly hair was pulled back into a messy bun, and his thick framed glasses perched atop his nose. As he walked, he hummed a tune and twirled a spray paint can in his hand, creating a rhythm with the clinking of the metal ball inside. Graffiti adorned the walls around him, evidence of his artistic prowess. He stopped in front of a blank brick wall, his movements deliberate and fluid. With a flick of his wrist, he unleashed a burst of color onto the surface, creating a masterpiece before the eyes of passers-by. The aroma of spray paint filled the air, and the sound of the gun spraying was like a symphony. He was a true creative force, making the world a little more beautiful one stroke at a time. The activity. An interesting character. Choose a character from a story you've read that was particularly memorable and try to find examples of the descriptions the author used. Identify at least one example of each of the following. Appearance, facial features, hair, body clothing. Speech or dialogue. Actions or behavior. Thoughts. Relationships or interactions with other characters. The practice. Choose one of the following character prompts and practice writing 1 to 2 descriptive paragraphs about them. Try to use a mix of direct and indirect characterization describing elements such as appearance, speech, thoughts, actions or behaviors, and interactions with others. A frustrated businessman. A ballerina obsessed with perfection. A teenager who is the class clown. A laid-back surfer. An elderly gentleman with a sharp mind. An exhausted waitress. A curious 5-year-old. A public speaker with anxiety. Using sensory detail to establish setting. The skill. The setting of a narrative includes the time and place in which the events of the story take place, and these can be chosen for various reasons, but it also embodies a sense of mood and atmosphere that can be crucial in setting the scene for the events to take place. Effective writers bring their settings to life by adding detail upon detail and creating sensory imagery that immerses the reader in the story. Some key tips for effectively describing your settings are: be specific by naming and describing everything you can about a scene. E.g., instead of saying, "The car drove down the road," say, "The sleek and shiny red convertible sped and swerved down Anywhere Street." Include sensory imagery that evokes all of the senses, including visual, sight, oral, sound, olfactory, smell, tactile, touch, gustatory, taste, and kinesthetic, movement. Ensure you know the world of your story really well. If it's based on a real place, ensure you read, research, or view pictures to help you visualize your setting so you can convey it authentically. Experiment with using some figurative language such as similes, metaphors, and personification. This can help create memorable details through abstract comparisons. The sample. As he entered the gym, the smell of sweat and leather filled his nostrils, and the thudded sound of gloves hitting punching bags echoed all around him. He scanned the walls that were lined with mirrors, reflecting the grit and determination on the faces of the boxers as they trained. The ropes of the ring creaked and groaned as 2 fighters sparred. He threw his bag onto the scuffed wooden floor and crossed the room, noticing the pungent aroma of liniment and ammonia mingling with the musk of the fighters. He knew the gym was a place of discipline, where the sound of heavy breathing and the sight of sweat pouring down faces were as common as the sight of battered gloves and broken noses. It was a place where he knew his human spirit would be tested and the limits of his body would be pushed to their breaking point, but it was also a place where the sweet science of boxing would be practiced with reverence and respect. The activity. Visualizing setting. Before you undertake the writing activity on the next slide, choose one of the prompts and create a quick 10-minute vision board for your setting. Research to find names, details, or historical references that might aid in authenticity, and/or use the image search to find at least 5 pictures that might help you visualize your setting clearly so you can create strong and engaging imagery for your reader. The practice. Write a detailed description of one of the following scenes that establishes a clear sense of mood or atmosphere. Focus on giving lots of specific detail and including multiple types of sensory imagery. A camping ground at night. A waiting room at a doctor's surgery. A bustling music concert. A crowded freeway traffic jam. A school sports day. A rooftop view of a suburban neighborhood. A busy coffee shop. A dusty basement. Using verbs to create action and movement. The skill. Verbs are used to create action and movement, and the careful selection of verbs can result in conveying specific moods, ideas, and/or imagery. Although the character, setting, and order of events are similar, consider how changing the verbs, as well as some adverbs and adjectives, can alter the mood and meaning of the following passages. Passage 1. She reluctantly picked up her car keys and slowly trudged out the front door, leaving it to close softly behind her. She sat in her car, the engine slowly idling as she contemplated the day before her. After a minute or so had passed, she cruised out her driveway onto the quiet street. Passage 2. She snatched her car keys and stormed out the front door, leaving it to slam behind her from the impact. She slid quickly into her car, revved the engine, and tore down her driveway onto the busy highway, narrowly missing the oncoming traffic. The sample. The two boys lunged towards each other, their hands grasping at the same brightly colored lollipop. They tugged and pulled at each other's limbs and clothes, their bodies swaying back and forth as they vied for control. Their eyes widened with determination as they pushed and shoved, each refusing to give up their hold on the sugary prize. The lollipop bounced between their fingers, the stick wobbling dangerously as they jostled for position. Finally, with one sharp yank, one of the boys triumphantly pulled the lollipop free, thrusting it high above his head like a victory prize, leaving the other boy to stare dejectedly at the empty wrapper. The practice. After selecting one of the following prompts, write a couple of detailed paragraphs describing a scene, incident, or situation that involves action or movement. An awe-inspiring dance performance. Some old, rusty farm equipment. A skilled skateboarder. A dramatic police chase. A vibrant underwater ecosystem. A busy cleaner. A group of skiers. An injured athlete. To conclude, writing an effective narrative requires you to juggle a number of skills and techniques depending on the style of story you are aiming for. The most important things to remember are to use lots of descriptive detail, create imagery for your reader, and make the story interesting and engaging for them to read. Hopefully you can utilize some of these skills the next time you write a narrative. Good luck and happy writing!